everyone, my name is Laura Landers. I'm an AmeriCorps member with the Arkansas Reads program. The Literacy Council where I volunteer is the Ozark Foothills Literacy Project, OFLP for short. I hope you will join me each week in reading and discussing a book, one chapter at a time. Feel free to discuss in the comments. All I ask is that we keep it friendly. Also, please click on the registration link in the description box below and fill out the form to become an official member of the YouTube Book Club. Heroes of America Illustrated Lives. Clara Barton and the American Red Cross by Eve Marco. Chapter illustrations by Pablo Marcos. Cover illustration by Jordi Torres. To start from Chapter 1, click the link in the description box below. Chapter 4. School Teacher. After David recovered, Clara went back to school. When a few years had passed, she began to think again of teaching school herself. Sally, Dorothy, and Stephen are school teachers, she said to David. I think I'd like to teach school too. Are you sure you're big enough? He asked teasingly. I'm 17, she told him. I don't mean your age, Clara, he said, mussing up her hair. I mean your size. Do you think those students are going to listen to you? Clara was only 5 feet tall. They'll listen to me if they respect me, Clara told David. I'll have to find a way to earn their respect. Shortly after that, she earned her first teaching certificate. One bright early morning in May, Clara Barton walked to the one-room schoolhouse near North Oxford. It was her first day as a teacher, and she was nervous. She wore her new green dress with velvet trim. It reached all the way down to her shoes. Her thick, dark hair was parted in the middle, with curls falling over her ears, which made her look like an adult. But did she feel like an adult? Could she act like an adult? She wasn't much older than many of her pupils, she knew. Some of them were going to be bigger than she was. Would they listen to her? Heart pounding with anticipation, Clara opened the door to the schoolhouse and entered. 40 heads turned around to look at her as she stood by the doorway. The children were already at their desks, bright and rosy-cheeked. Aged 4 to 13, they were all in one class and all pupils of Clara Barton. Good morning, boys and girls, Clara said as she made her way to the front of the room. Good morning, Miss Barton, they answered. Her desk was on a raised platform in front of the class, so that her students could see her. Clara Barton sat down and looked down at her pupils' faces. Do you each have a Bible? She asked them. Solemnly, they nodded. Please open to the book of Matthew. Chapter 5. We will study Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Who would like to start reading? We'll take turns. One little girl raised her hand. What's your name? Clara asked, smiling. "Emily," the little girl said. "All right, Emily, you may begin." Emily began reading earnestly, and the other pupils read silently along. Clara's sharp eyes soon noticed the pupil seated behind Emily. He was a big boy, bigger even than Clara, and though he pretended to read his Bible, he was actually laughing behind his hand and giving funny looks to 3 other boys who sat in the next row. Clara knew this boy. His name was Pete Boyd. He and his 3 friends were the 4 biggest boys in the class. They were also bullies. She remembered they'd made a lot of trouble for the teacher last year. She would have to deal with them carefully but firmly. During the break, all the children went outside to play. Suddenly, little Emily came running up to Clara. "Pete's hurt, Miss Barton," she cried. "Please come right away." Clara hurried over to the schoolyard behind the schoolhouse. In the yard lay Pete Boyd with a big scratch on his cheek. Next to him stood his 3 friends. "What happened?" Clara demanded. One of the other big boys mumbled, then laughed. But when Clara raised herself to her full height, eyes blazing, and demanded again to know what happened, he turned red and said, "We were pitching horseshoes, Miss Barton. I pitched one and hit Pete in the face." Quickly, Clara bent over Pete Boyd. Her 2 years' experience nursing David was already to her advantage. She looked knowledgeably at the scratch and said, "You're lucky, Pete. There is a little blood, but it's dried already. It's nothing that a clean handkerchief and a little water can't fix." Clara gave him her own handkerchief and told him to wash his face and come back. The big boy looked at the young teacher with curiosity, but then did as he was told. When he came back, Clara said to the 4 boys, "From now on, whenever you pitch horseshoes, you must make sure everybody stands far away from the peg. That way no one will get hurt. Your concentration will be better, and your scores will be higher. Here, give me the horseshoes and I'll show you." Pete Boyd looked at Clara, his mouth wide open. "You, Miss Barton? You want to pitch horseshoes?" "I'm not only going to pitch horseshoes, Pete," Clara said with a smile. "I'm going to show you how to do it right." Still astonished, the big boy gave her the horseshoes. But that was nothing compared to his surprise when Clara pitched them. Pete bent over to examine the horseshoes as they lay neatly around the peg, then looked up, flabbergasted. "You didn't miss one, Miss Barton," he exclaimed. "You have a perfect score." He'd never met a teacher like this in his entire life. But that was only the beginning. The next day, during recess, Clara Barton played ball with the big boys, and very quickly they discovered that she could throw and catch better than any of them. Soon she was not only teaching them how to spell and how to do arithmetic, but also how to jump to catch a ball thrown high or wide, and how to throw straight. Even in her long dresses and wide skirts, Clara could run and jump better than any of them. Those boys never made trouble for Clara again. They became her best pupils. They learned to read and write. They also learned history and geography, and Clara had earned their respect, just as she promised David she would do. Clara Barton, Chapter 4, Discussion Questions. Number 1. What was David's concern in this chapter? Have you ever had a similar concern about yourself? How did you handle it? Number 2 has 2 parts. Number 2, Part A. Discuss respect. What is respect? Who should respect whom? How is respect shown? Should respect be earned or freely given? Number 2, Part B. Who showed respect in this chapter? Who did they respect? And how did they respect them? Number 3. How did Clara handle the bullies in her classroom? Do you agree with her method? Have you ever had to deal with bullies, either as an authority figure or otherwise? How did you handle the situation? Please post your discussion in the comments below. Also, remember to click on the link in the description box below to fill out the registration form and become an official member of the OFLP YouTube Book Club. Next week, I will post the next chapter and discussion questions, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for listening and participating. Have a great week.